And we are recording on Friday, December 20th, 2024 at 12:07 p.m. Eastern Time. We don't know where Dave is. He has the link. He hasn't showed up. That's on him, and everything that happens from here forward is also on him. Um, but yeah, for everybody watching, I think the last episode last year was Christmas Cast, and it's the last episode of this year as well. So before whatever dark and vulgar turns this podcast takes, preemptively, everyone have a very Merry Christmas. Enjoy your families and all that good stuff. Now, that being said, I mean, I was gonna say let's go on riff on the drones, but I mean, I guess so. As of 2 days ago, someone tried to kill Nick Fuentes, which I don't like Nick, but everyone is no. You're allowed to say whatever you want. Free speech, not free speech, is doesn't even just apply to the COVID vaccine is dangerous. Free speech also applies to you can say anything about anybody. You can fucking you can do any. Say it about me. I don't care. So fuck that. But also last night, did you see that Harris canceled her, I guess, for vacation, and
Hey,
Biden was
Dave,
whisked from Delaware up to
get
the
on
White
this
House
podcast.
last night. Like in
Tommy Carrigan.
if Dave says he
It's
doesn't know,
12.
yeah, you fucking idiot.
And he even confirmed this yesterday.
He
That's
confirmed this
hilarious.
is why I send out
Yeah.
confirmation emails the day
Okay,
before.
we're talking. So
Yeah,
So, you're getting roasted, dude.
this is why I send out confirmation emails to every guest the
I
day
just called
before.
Collum. He's
I just
coming.
Yeah.
yeah, I
He
always
said
ping.
it's 12. He said it's 12.
What is that motherfucker doing? He's not retired. What is he doing? Is that
He's writing his urine review.
That's true. Yeah, that's what he's doing.
if I
He's
called my
very
dad and he
absorbed.
didn't, if I called my dad and he didn't know what time it is, it's accepted. He's been retired for a couple of years. He worked his ass off. He's checked out. I get it. What the fuck's Dave doing? He's still
He's
working at.
working hard. He's
He's like at
absorbed
the
in
He
his
does
office.
his
work.
end of the year review, and he
I,
still
I mean,
has, and he still has his,
He's doing it
he's
till
still.
3 in the morning too.
I mean, hey,
Oh yeah.
Godspeed. Did y'all see that last night about how Biden and Kamala unexpectedly went back to the White House? I guess Biden was in Delaware and like a Secret Service motorcade, I guess rather
There he is.
abruptly brought him back up, and Kamala was about to fly to California, and then at the last second, the security detail brought it right back to D. So it's
Wait a minute,
suspected.
was it some blunder of some kind?
I don't know. I'll look it up, but it's
What were they supposed to do? Meet at the White House and that they messed it up in some way?
I listen. I like that answer as much as any. Kamala Harris just abruptly, so this was yesterday at 10:31 p.m. Kamala Harris just abruptly
Hmm.
canceled her planned trip to California and raced to the White House, per reporters. And also, per reporters, Biden just returned to D.C. after being expected to stay in Delaware till after Christmas.
Oh, I see what's up. They're responding to that Wall Street Journal story about how non-compos mentis Joe Biden is, and they got to try to figure out, whether they're going to fifth or
25th.
25th Amendment him at the very last moment.
Do you think they're
I,
going to, or you think they're going to?
And I
Just
think
for the,
that they have to talk about it, but they're probably not going to do it.
I mean, if
it,
But
he's
it's
like,
I
Morning, Dave.
hello, Dave.
Sorry, guys.
Don't worry
Lost
about it.
track of the time. I thought I'd add another half hour.
You're,
No
don't,
worries.
I
uh,
imagine you fucking ripped my ass to
no, we
shreds
were
the
very
first time.
kind.
Actually, we didn't. We
We
were
did
we were
before we
actually
started
quite kind.
recording. I said you're
Yeah.
probably
yeah.
fucking an animal somewhere. Well, I guess now I just ripped you, but we technically we hadn't before we
Well,
recorded.
I was doing an auto Bobert on myself.
Technically, it's not an animal.
It's a
It
chicken.
It's
I mean,
more
there are
like
worse
Chicken.
things. There are worse things
machine.
to
It's technically not an
to,
animal. It's been dead
break
for a
It's
your
a
couple
balls over.
hours.
chicken. It's a
Yeah,
chicken.
it's been dead for a couple
as
hours
long as it
now.
wasn't an auto Merkel, I'm like,
It was a chicken till I choked it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Now it's just a
Well,
rapidly cooling
now you can
flesh
have it
wound.
for dinner, huh?
Jesus Christ. Jesus.
What's that joke? What did Jeffrey Dahmer say to Lorena Bobbitt? You gonna eat that?
Gonna eat that, ma'am.
Jesus Christ.
Oh man.
You've
I
gone
wonder if
ebonic.
Elvis was in the room.
You've gone ebonic on us. I keep hearing you in your ebonic mode.
Do you,
Oh, me? Yeah. I was in my blog this morning. I wrote another Christmas carol, and the ghost of Christmas future is George Floyd. He tells Joe
Good for
Biden
you,
to
Jim.
harken his ass.
Someone said, put up a meme that said, "Who would you save?" And two of the I don't remember the others, but two of the choices were George Floyd, and the other one was Peanut the squirrel.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Uh, fair enough.
that's
Oh
a
my God.
no-brainer right there.
I actually
Yeah.
thought your call, Jim, was Chris Martinson for some reason. I
Well, guess what? It wasn't. It was me
yeah, I know.
telling you to get your ass up.
Do you
Yeah.
think?
No,
Do you
I
think?
was ready. The clock flew.
Yeah.
I
You
get
got
it.
one of them flying clocks?
Yeah, it
Is
does
that
that.
like you get that for Christmas?
Yeah. I don't know. You get it from old age.
Fair
Oh
enough.
dear.
Well, I mean, it does accelerate. I
Were
mean,
you
we're
up
all.
at 4 in the morning writing on that urine review?
No, I was up till 3 I was up until 3.
Yeah.
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 Well, I
Yeah.
got up at
It's
4.
been grinding my brain to dust. The other problem, you might know this, you guys might know this. You don't something doesn't read well till the last draft.
Yeah.
And then all of a sudden you get to the last draft, I go, oh, now it's fine. Right.
Mhm.
And so you can end up with a whole pile of shit because it's not yet the last draft.
Right.
So
I
it's
don't feel that
painful. I
way.
find it emotionally painful because I end up with like 200 pages of horse shit, and then I have to turn it into shiny, polished horse shit.
Yeah, I don't feel that way. I feel it's pretty good and shiny, when I get done with it
I,
the first time. It's like architecture, actually. The first thing is like framing the house, and the
Mhm.
rest of it's just moving the furniture around.
Well, but I do it like William F. Buckley, although not as well, I should add. Where he said he used to write a draft of a book in 160 hours.
Yeah, yeah,
And the
pretty much.
problem is that draft of the book is going to suck,
Mhm.
right? And
Yeah.
but rather than sort of massage it to the finish, sort of chapter by chapter, I try to sort of power my way through it if I can.
The whole
I,
thing changed with computers. I started writing novels professionally that got published when I still used a typewriter.
Mhm.
And using a typewriter is like actually going to the laundry and running stuff through the mangler like 3 or 4 times, draft after draft after draft. It's very,
My
very
thesis
tedious.
is my
But with
first
a
5 pages.
computer, you can kind of polish it up as you go along.
I
yeah,
know. I
that's what
just
I
don't.
usually do.
No, I don't. I just bash out a draft and say, okay, I now know what it's going to be. But then I end
Oh,
up with hundreds of pages of
Yeah,
horse.
I'm at the point now where I usually write in like 4 to 700 word chunks, and
yeah.
I'll put a bunch down, and then I'll walk away and I'll smoke a cigar. I'll go talk to the wife. I'll come back. I'll you know break one off, whatever, and then I'll come back and then I'll reread that, edit that as I go along, and then add and then get back into the flow of whatever it was before. And so by the time
That's
I
how
get
I
done
write
with the
scientific
article,
papers.
it's usually already gone through 5 drafts, and it's just. And they're usually 85% complete the first time through. You may miss something. I need to add something in here, or, clean up a phrase there. You find yourself when you're really not, in the flow, you find yourself like repeating the same phrase over and over again, and you've got to like clean that up. And there's all the stylistic shit that needs to be dealt with in order to make it flow
Yeah,
and make it
You
yeah,
know
work.
what amazes me?
I write
Uh,
scientific papers the way you just described. For some reason, this annual thing, I just power it
Mm.
out. Part of it's because I don't know what the fuck it's going to be at all. The scientific
Well, there's
paper.
that.
yeah.
Yeah, I can
Well,
imagine, Dave. I don't know how you do it. I'll be honest with you. I mean, I like writing a 200 word 200 page end of the
Yeah,
world
you
end of
can't
the year
write.
review.
You got to wait till the end to do it, right?
Yeah, and you got to take notes all year long. And I'm not that organized. Like
But
that's
there's
that's
shit
not.
I wrote about that. I had no idea. For example, I wrote about 5 pages on this Fanone guy, right? This cop, the January 6th cop who testified
Oh,
oh,
how they made him pee his pants and how he's a little pussy. And I wrote about 5 pages on him. Something clicked, something grabbed my attention, and I dug into
mhm.
Fanone.
what'd you find out about him?
Well, first of all, there's so many fucking photos of him with what I call the cool kids. So there he is with Hollywood stars and Robert De Niro and and then with Nancy Pelosi and so it turns out that he was just a prop the whole way, and then he got the Christine Blasey Ford treatment at the end. On election night, he got fucked up drunk and spewed to some reporter shit that shouldn't be spewed in a drunken stupor.
This
Mhm.
election, 24?
This one, yeah, this recent one.
So it's 4 years after.
Well, yeah, because he was just so upset because he was part of the blob that went after Trump,
Mhm.
and he said shit he shouldn't say, and then it turns out that he had gotten a brief gig on one of the networks, and then it fell apart, and I think that was just like a bone that got thrown to him or something.
Sure.
Did he
He
confess
got
to anything outright?
Christine Blasey Ford, we're done with you now. They threw him out the back of the van.
Yep.
And he now can't even get jobs at places like Walmart and shit.
Did he confess to anything outright?
No. Oh, in his rant, he confessed how he did everything to stop this guy and stuff like that. You get the sense that he felt he was part of a. And then he said, I would have been. I wasted all this time. I would have been better off just riding Pornhub. And I finished by saying, hey, don't knock Pornhub, dude. I think they're looking for fresh talent.
Always, huh? Never enough.
Yeah, so I did again. I don't know what's going to catch my eye, and this year fucked me up royally because I had hundreds of pages on Harris and Biden and all this shit, and then Trump mows them down, and often it's like it's irrelevant.
Yeah.
Hmm.
And all of a sudden, it's like I could have been writing Pornhub, right? And there's some relevant stuff in there. I'm going to chase I am chasing. I've got like one chapter left. I'm chasing the origin story of Kamala. I'm going to go down that rabbit hole.
I think it's interesting.
And
I mean, you brought it up the last time you and I did a show together, and I was really, what was it? I think it was on when we were on with Sean Inman.
About a week ago.
And yeah. And the more, right after we got done with that call, that show, I was like, that is that tracks.
And I think it was Jim's Elizabeth Nixon podcast that I said, okay, that one, I'm going down that now.
Mhm.
That's
Yeah,
it.
no, it makes so much sense because, like, to me, nothing is spontaneous with these people. I really feel like everything is
Nothing by
scripted.
chance. Nothing.
Yeah,
FDR.
no,
the
nothing is
part
up to
that
chance.
mystifies me is what was the point of training up these MK Ultra subjects and sending them out into the world? Do you have a theory about that? Because that's the missing piece for me.
To me,
What's their mission supposed to be anyway?
it's that they have their perfect puppet. They have their perfect Manchurian candidate that they present in front of. I think now that you say, like, for example, now that we have Kamala Harris, now I'm looking at Justin Trudeau.
Oh,
Now I'm looking at Chrystia Freeland.
Yes.
Now I'm looking at Macron. Now I'm looking at this one. Now I'm looking at that.
Adhern. Yeah.
Yeah.
So there are different purposes. First of all, there's this global pedophile network, which I know is true. I just don't know where the truth stops and the fiction starts, right?
Right.
And that thing's got to be run. That thing is a very elaborate network. And so I don't know if I told you this, but it clicked one day when I was watching a video called "The Mind of a Dog," and it's training working dogs. And they breed them, and which they breed these pedophile network participants too. They literally are bred within the network. And they breed the dogs. They take these Labradors with great temperaments and shit, and then they train them, and half of them fail out, and there's a 7-year waiting list to get one of those dogs because they're such wonderful dogs.
Mhm.
And then what they do is they take the dogs who all have different personalities and the people who need dogs, and they go, okay, give the blob over to this Vietnam veteran. He needs a blob badly. And give the more active one to this woman who needs. And so they pair them up, and it turns out, I think in their training, they do exactly that. I think they go, this kid is going to be an assassin. This kid is a sick fuck. And according to Annika Lucas, I listened to Patrick Bet-David interview, and he did a great job, and he pressed her, and it made me a little nervous because she answered some questions that I'm going, I agree with Patrick. There's something about that answer that doesn't make sense. But Annika says we were all trained to kill, all of us.
Mm-hmm.
But that's not to say that they were all then turned into assassins. But they're all trained to kill. They all had their personalities broken into pieces, then reassembled into some new form that was used. And they serve all sorts of purposes. There's a fucking TED Talk by some chick who talks about how pedophilia is not a crime. It's a sexual choice and this and that. And I was watching her, and she had that blank stare. She had that sort of somewhat slightly impressionless personality. If you watch them, they all look like they've somehow coped. You listen to Annika, Luca, they don't. They're not cheerful. They're not, of course. But this woman giving the talk, I'm going, this chick is in the fucking network. This chick was giving a fucking TED Talk.
Right. Well, it makes, I mean, again, it's like, you know, if you're going to, if this is a thing that you have to, you're going to build and you're going to have to protect it and everything else, then you have to have an entire cast. You have to have your leaders. You have to have your supporting cast. You know, look, it's like, I hate to like be blunt, but they've all read Bob McKee's story. They all know how to like, you know, structure a screenplay. They know how it works. They know this. Like if we know it, they know it, because hell, they help write the rule. They help write the rules on how, you know, on how to roll out the story in a particular way, what the timing has to be, how, you know, the like we all know, you know, I mean, if you've studied screenwriting at all, which I have, and I know, Jim, I'm sure you have as well, you know that it's like a form. They know, you know, that the inciting incident has to happen within 7 minutes, or the audience
and
loses
there are
interest.
3 acts, and you have to
and then you have to have plot point number 1 at the 20-minute mark right after that, and then you have, and then act 1 has to set everything up, and then there's the midpoint turn, and then there's the, you know, and it all fits. And then and you know who your protagonist is, you know who your antagonist is, and you know who your supporting characters are. They all have to have their arcs with support the original, and it's all one big fucking pyramid.
It's the big whiteboard where you have all the names and characters,
right? And
arrows
and literally, when if you do any kind of screenwriting at all, you realize that it's like a glorified Mad Lib, where you're just like you're just changing the names every time. I mean, it is, and it's a form, and you fill the form out like it's a fucking tax form, and then, you know, but
that's one of the this is one of the reasons that Hollywood movies suck, by the way.
Well, no, actually,
absolutely.
The structure itself is something you have to learn, but then using the structure to create something beautiful comes out of that. Because look, all they've done is they've tested what works against an audience. And so it's been this constant feedback over the last 100 years, the evolution of the screenplay. It's not that the form itself is a bad thing. It's that if the screenplay doesn't transcend the form, doesn't transcend and have anything to say, then you wind up with garbage, or you wind up with propaganda, or you wind up with an agenda-laden piece of garbage. But if you have
a Rob Reiner movie,
so it's like looking at
you have your typical Arnold Schwarzenegger or Sylvester Stallone action movie, because those don't have to transcend. They just have to show up, do the thing, right? But don't kid yourself. The Coen brothers use the form. Okay, the best film, Scorsese uses the form. He's also so good at it that he hides the form. He writes a movie so goddamn compelling, you're not watching it as a structuralist at all. You don't care because the movie's so goddamn good.
Okay, Tom, I'm going to say someone sucks. I want you to say right or wrong. I think Stephen King sucks.
He sucks.
Absolutely, he sucks.
He sucks.
I've read 3 or 4.
He doesn't know how to finish a fucking plot.
Because he never knew where he was going in the first place.
You know, he admits that. He says, when I start writing, I don't know the finish. And I go, Stephen, it shows.
Yeah. Well, and then
I often don't know the finish myself. But
you know, and then the best writers start at the end. They know how the story is going to end, and then they.
That's not how I work. You know, when I'm writing fiction, and I publish something like, I don't know, 12 novels.
Right.
I don't know how it's going to end. My theory about the whole thing is that you know, you set all of these personalities in motion, and they act according to their nature, and they tell you, it's a self-informing process. They tell you where they want to take the story.
That
And
people who
and
don't
and then
write
you have
don't
to
understand.
navigate it carefully to make sure that you
Yeah,
make it
the
work that way.
the classic one for me is J. Michael Straczynski in Babylon 5. Like as he was shopping B5 for like 10 years before he finally got a production deal with Warner Brothers, and every time getting rejected and having to rethink how he was going to do the show, and he was letting it sitting in gestate and this, that, and everything else. He knew exactly what the arc of the story was. He didn't know all the little details. And then when he got into actually writing the 110 episodes of the show, he didn't write them all, but he wrote most of them. You realize that like at points, like all of a sudden characters that he thought were minor characters, and he just threw in because he needed a foil for one of the major characters, turns out to
That
surprise
is,
him and then
Michael.
create other things. And it was beautiful. And we got to watch it in real time because he was chronicling it as Babylon 5 was being produced in the early days of the internet. So he was telling us the process after the episodes finally aired, and we got to see the entire process occur, and it was beautiful.
But
That's
it's
Michael
funny.
Fanone. That Michael Fanone was a character when I was writing about January 6th. All of a sudden, he just emerged.
Mm-hmm.
I said,
I've had a lot of traffic with Hollywood producers over the years. A number of my books were optioned, although they were never made. They never got made. But I was asked to write screenplays, and probably the worst torture that a writer who considers himself serious can undergo is to have to receive notes from producers, about exactly what you're talking about how to make the thing conform more to the template of Hollywood. And my experience was that every one of their notes, every one of their suggestions really worked toward wrecking the work itself. And it was just a very
the book is
demoralizing process. And that's one of the reasons I admire the Coen brothers so much, is that they don't take notes from their producers and their investors. They do exactly what they want to do, and nobody pushes them around. And it's a really remarkable relationship that they've got.
Yeah, well, Stanley Kubrick had the same kind of deal. I mean, he had an ironclad contract with Warner Brothers that he would just deliver final
but not ironclad enough. Not as good.
No,
as
clearly
the
because
brothers.
they killed him after showing Eyes Wide Shut.
Yeah,
and then cut the movie. Yeah, but it's interesting as I'm Twitter mates with Joseph Mazzoli, who's the showrunner for Stargate SG-1 and a couple other shows, and during the aftermath of the Trump shooting, Joe was out doing issuing script notes to the writers of the story that they were trying to sell to us, and it was hilarious. Like okay, well, the screenwriter clearly is just trying to set her up. She's a very interesting character, like the head of the Secret Service, but her story's not believable, and I like where you went with this, but I don't like with it. And he wrote it all as these series of producer notes. He did like 4 or 5 of them, as if each one was a draft, as they kept changing their story, and it was hilarious and it was beautiful. I sent those over to Dexter White, and he's like, he didn't know who that was at the time. He sent me a text back. He goes, that guy's obviously been in the room with the smarmy producers. Like, yeah, that's Joe Mazzoli. He's the friggin', he did 9 seasons of Stargate SG-1 and other television shows. Yeah, he's a fucking pro, dude. He's like, oh yeah, it shows. It was beautiful. It was really good. So yeah, but that's how bad their thing is now. They've shown us their hand about how they operate, and we see them in real time. And it's why none of their shit works anymore, because they, for years they were using that as a means by which to roll out whatever the story was that they wanted to tell us. And now we understand the plumbing of it, and now we can see it happening in real time.
Here's one that I've seen just the first season of. My understanding is it's a series of books that I really enjoyed, even though we never got to the punchline, because it's just season 1 was the 3-body problem.
I have not watched it or read it.
I think you might enjoy it.
Yeah, I've heard of it. I haven't watched it yet.
What is a concern exactly?
Something in the universe is fucking up royally. The universe is, something very strange is happening.
The simulation is failing.
Turns out they trace it, and again, it's only first season, but they trace it to a Chinese facility in which they somehow got a signal 40 years ago. and the person, the signal came through translated saying, "Don't communicate with us. You'll regret it." And the chick did, and the shit starts hitting the fan.
Right.
But it's well done. There's this creepy, weird component to it, so it might just be Stephen King build-up shit. Not going to go there, but I've heard the 3 books are very good, or whatever number it is. So.
Yeah, I've heard very good things about the books. I've heard that the first season of the show was good. I've had it recommended to me by a lot of people. I'm not currently really watching television or even film right now. I'm kind of just hanging out with some friends and playing. I'm just.
I've been listening to talk radio in the car, which I gave up for a very long time. It is wild listening to them talking about the global conflicts and stuff. And this morning was particularly problematic. They're talking now about Israel and anti-Semitism and shit like that. And it's clearly enormous propaganda. And I'm going, wait a minute, you just lied. There's no chance what you just said is true. And it's bothering me.
What are they lying about?
Well, everything's pro-Israel, and I mean, the problem we face in the current era is that this conflict has produced a spike in anti-Semitism, no question. Just like the Ukraine war caused people to hate Russians, right?
Right.
And simultaneously, the anti-Semitism label being hung on anyone who says Israel shouldn't be doing that is spiked up too. And so now you've got this real brawl between them. If you can't criticize a government, we know governments are bad. If you can't criticize them, we got a problem. And you can't criticize Israel without getting in trouble. And at the same time, you can't criticize Jews because shit that Israel's doing. And so it's a balancing act. And this radio I was listening to this morning was not balancing it very well.
Well, it's a good thing that the lawfare lawyers are out there, because that gives you an opportunity to criticize Jews in a way that really works. Mark Elias and Norm Eisen. And as a Jew, I appreciate it especially because I dump on them all the time.
Well,
it's one of those things that if you got a head on your shoulders, let's say you're a Jew, or let's say you're a Democrat, let's say you're one of the categories who's in a brawl, it's really important that you understand how your team fucked up. Yeah. And one of the things I do, I defend the Republicans. So let's say, everyone I know hates Trump, right? Foregone conclusion. I remind them that the Republican Party didn't pick Trump. They had no choice. The Democratic Party picked Biden. They had a choice. So if the Democrats haven't figured out that they have somehow managed to not only destroy their party, but they somehow managed to turn Donald J. Trump into a victim. How do you do that?
And
right?
Well, yeah, and a myth. They turned him into a legend.
He is anti-fragile. He is anti-fragile at a level that I never would have believed possible.
Yeah.
And you said
well, I mean, but part of that is
you said it. You said something I've been saying to my wife, and we'll repeat it here. They have changed Trump's image physically. He is not as orange. His hair is not a caricature.
Right.
He looks stately.
It doesn't come to a point over his forehead like a rocket ship anymore.
But he also doesn't rant like he did.
No.
Right. And he doesn't move back and forth when he talks. He does when he dances, but not when he's
said, here's the deal. The Democratic Party is destroying itself.
Yeah.
Step back and let them do it, right? This is a classic. When your enemy's destroying yourself, don't stop them.
Yeah, just wow, that's nice. Thank you.
When I did that debate with Steve Keen, by the way, on climate change, I was ready for him because I knew how he argued. I happened to spend 8 hours total with a guy who just wrote a book on climate change, gory details about the science, and B, the guy who made the movie Climate the Movie, I spent time with both of those guys just talking about it, and they looked at his videos and shit. And it turned out that Steve just blew himself up. I didn't have to say anything. He starts out lecturing about the chemistry of climate change. And I'm going, to a chemist?
Yeah.
This the angle you're going to take? And then he starts talking about how I know scientists. And I'm going, you're saying this to a scientist?
You're saying this to,
right?
yeah.
And it just got absurd. Bill Fleckenstein was the moderator. And I was watching his eyeball rolls. He was going to rip, he was going to tear his retina. I mean, and finally he chimed in, he says, what the hell are you talking about? Right. And Steve just blew it. He just, and so at the very end, I said, look, here are the various reasons it's not real. Here's what the solar by the way, I did a fascinating experiment, which I used. I went on Grok, which is useful as hell, Jim.
I use it all the time.
Okay.
Constantly.
And I asked Grok, I said, give me 20 famous scientists who do not believe climate change is a crisis. And Grok spit out 20 names, said what they said. I recognized probably 18 of the 20, right? Mm-hmm. Then I said, okay, Grok, give me the names of 10 solar physicists who believe that climate change is a crisis. And Grok came back and said, there are no definitive statements from solar physicists about climate change being a crisis.
Yes.
Yeah. And I used that in there, and I'm going, it's over. It's over. There was not a single solar physicist on the IPCC, this huge group that puts together the
Ben Davidson's been complaining about this for years, Dave. Ben Davidson's been talking about this for a decade.
I know.
You know, and how they like they tortured the math by, you know, how they tortured the total solar radiance numbers and all the rest of it. It was all bullshit. You know,
so
and then they put those same words in the mouth of Neil deGrasse Tyson to sell it, and then he torched his own credibility like immediately.
He's such
he's
faggot.
Peter Hotez.
He's such a faggot.
So back to Jim's question now, why is all this happening, right? This is the universe winking at us. This is the three-body problem.
Well, my question was why.
This is Philip K. Dick saying we all decided we didn't want to live in that world anymore, and we went to this world.
Yeah, no, that's exactly what we jumped.
Jim asked.
Yeah, we just jumped to a different track.
Yeah,
is a bigger question about why drones, why Biden, why Southern border, why pedophile networks, why did we pick a fight with Ukraine? Why? What? Tom, I need you to chime in. Democratically elected governments are toppling all over the world right now.
Mm-hmm. They're not. Yeah.
What a strange thing, and each one by itself seems to be minor. Is it tied to Trump winning? Did Trump's victory?
You know, it's not the first thing that's happened in synchronicity in the last 5 years. The whole COVID thing was synchronous too. Synchronous.
No, I mean, look. At the end of the day, when you have a system. When you have a system that they've built that is this, you keep using this word over and over and over again. The word is brittle. They've created these brittle systems that you pressure them just a little bit and they collapse. The coalition in Germany after the last election was cobbled together. The government in France cobbled together. The situation in the UK, Canada, this, that, everything else, and all that has to happen was Trump walked in and went, fuck you, tariffs, and they all.
But is that the Trump victory? Was that the Jenga piece that got pulled out?
It was Trump living.
What's that?
It was Trump surviving Butler.
But also, he didn't just survive. He mowed those fuckers down. Which, by the way, the word I say over and over and over again is not brittle. It's fuck. He mowed those motherfuckers down.
Yeah, he did.
And that was the only outcome that wouldn't lead to total chaos. And it pulled it off.
Yeah, it was. And we were all worried that it was going to be total chaos. We expected them to go with total chaos. We expected everything to happen. But this is the funny part about it, right? After Butler, why I think Butler is the turning point is not just because everything was leading up to that. If you go back to those 2-3 weeks before Butler, go back to the the debate on the 26th. And then there's the snap elections in England that were called like out of the fucking blue. And then there were the elections, the snap elections that were called in France out of the blue. When the right after the European parliamentary elections the month before, where they in fought and everything else in order to ensure that Ursula von der Leyen was put in charge of the European Commission, and then it was all a series. And there was that eerie calm, like, oh no, don't worry about it, everything's fine. We're not losing anything. All of this is going according to script. And then Trump lived because they were planning on replacing Joe Biden with whomever, probably Gavin Newsom.
And the iconic photos.
The iconic photo. And then Trump finally understands the gravity
By the way,
of the
you know who
situation.
took those iconic photos? You know that story?
Yeah, I can't remember the guy. I can't remember the guy was
Same
involved.
Guy who took the photo, the key photo of George Bush being
the
told
Secret
9/11
Service.
got hit.
That's
Yeah,
right.
yeah,
Why?
right.
Why? Now,
That's-
why would that guy be in
That-
Butler fucking PA? Just and by the
At
way, the
that
other one is-
moment, in that spot,
I
with a
think I
high,
mentioned-
Yeah, the high speed camera. Yeah, I
with
mean,
the high speed camera and everything else. Why was CNN there for the first Trump rally of the
and
fucking
by
year?
the way, the QAnon theory that like defines QAnon is that JFK Jr. is not dead and he's coming back and he's incognito under the and it turns out the guy he's supposed to be is a guy named Fusca. Fusca was sitting right behind Trump.
yeah,
The guy he's supposed to be is Fusca guy. I don't get that.
F-U-S. So JFK Jr., the QAnon theory, which I don't subscribe to, I hasten to add, is that JFK Jr. is alive, he's in hiding, and that he's going to come back and save the fucking world. This is classic QAnon stuff.
Yeah,
This is like
I've heard that. But you're saying he was at Butler, PA?
The guy who supposedly is JFK Jr. in disguise is the guy who they've identified as Fusca. And I can't remember his first name, but if you search Fusca on the internet, you'll find it. And I've watched different videos. He is there. He's at that rally. And you go, this guy could have gone to any rally he wanted.
You know, it's also
it doesn't matter that he's not JFK Jr. What matters is this guy who's central to this truly bizarre theory was sitting behind him. Now, there's another chick who's supposedly second command of something like the FBI or something, who supposedly is sitting behind him too.
Yeah, and she was fucking with something.
I think they debunked that
happened.
one, Dave.
have there,
I think
there's
there's a-
and it never looked right to me because I'm going, half the hot chicks in the world look like that. So it doesn't matter.
there's a screenshot that melted my mind of because you always see QAnon posted on Twitter. Normally they're being mocked and it's like Sam Hyde. But there's one that really fucked my head, and it's like whatever riddle the QAnon post is, and then the bottom three words it just says in all caps, "Fight, fight, fight," and it has a picture of Trump with his fist up, like at Butler. But the post was from 2018. Like, what the fuck is that?
There's another one.
No, like what but that's something where I can't just like go, well, that's weird. Like, what the fuck is that? What the fuck is that?
There's two people in the audience sitting behind Trump, and they're somewhat blurry images, but they're sitting behind Trump in the audience. And both of them do exactly the same thing before Trump gets shot. They do this.
What the fuck?
Both of them do it. Two independent people behind Trump.
Yeah. Is this what it feels like to like
By the way,
mentally?
in case you're wondering, I did write about this.
I don't doubt that. I don't
doubt it at all. I think it's great.
It's
just fucking weird, man.
No, it's just subjective. But back to what you were saying about it being brittle. I look at it more as like the structures never existed. I always remember this like one video we watched in 6th grade about like the Revolutionary War or some shit, and it was some fort or outpost by the colonists, and it had like the parapet walls, and they were being approached by the British Army, and there's only like 10 dudes in the fort, and there was like 500, and they were like, we're dead, we're all fucking dead. And I guess per their thing is like every 10 or 20 soldiers they'd hold up the flag of like their colony or farm or whatever the fuck, and it was so every 10 or 20 you had a flag up, and the British knew that as, and I could be getting the entire war wrong, but they knew that was kind of their MO, and that's how they started to get better at scouting. Is they knew every 20 guys they have like a flag of whatever the fuck they're their movement is. So the guys on the parapet were like, well, what if we just put up like 50 flags? And it's behind the parapet, so you couldn't see over. And so it looked like that there was like 5,000 of them. British Army came, they saw their scouts, and then they were like, yeah, we're not doing that. That's death. But there's only 10 guys in there shitting bricks, and it worked. My point is it's not that they were fragile, it's that they didn't even exist. And so if you couple in something like censorship, where you censor everyone that would say, oh, there's not real soldiers there, they're just flags, you couple that with censorship and with a mass connection and same reality through the internet, you can have these powers that seem like powers. But the reality is, if you just walk up and, you can push over the flag and take over the fort, I think that's what we're seeing. It's not that these things are brittle, it's that they don't even exist.
Well,
Well,
my
like
idea of reality is that it's a consensual thing between the mass of people, and that it involves some kind of a collective consciousness that's
Mm-hmm.
the aggregate of that agreement between people about what is and what is not. And when you mess with it a lot, as the propagandists and the intel people do deliberately, you really injure that consensus, then strange things start to happen.
well,
It
so
seems
I
to
wrote
me.
about Law and Order because there's some fucked up things I'm told, and one of the things I point out is that it's like raising children, and that it's all a big bluff. And once they call your bluff, it's game over, right? So I
Mm-hmm.
refer to the little miscreants calling your bluff, right? So if your kids reach the point where they realize you're not going to kill them, then they're going, oh, okay. So you need them to have that faith that somehow you still rule. And California, by taking away shoplifting, they open the door to flash mobs anywhere, any city, hitting any store they want at will. I don't know how you put that worm back in the hole. It's a great risk of being. The populace now realizes that there's safety in numbers. They can do anything they want,
Mhm.
unless it's January 6th.
Wasn't hold on. Wasn't there
Yep.
something yesterday where someone's like in some part of California that got reversed and they started like arresting people yesterday? I'm trying to find it. I think I saw it this morning, but it was and I don't know if it's some city or what, but like the $950 rule no longer applies. It's just
Mhm.
straight up. It's back to so people are just getting arrested like everywhere else in the world.
This is the Trump election.
Yeah,
This is the Trump election.
it's fantastic.
Now, I called one. I nailed one at the dinner, the roast that the media and the president and all the big players do, and Trump showed and Kamala didn't. Trump started praising Eric Adams for having gotten attacked by the blob, and he says, "I'm sure you're going to do fine." And I saw that and I said, "Oh, Trump has cut a deal."
Yeah,
And the second Trump got elected, Eric Adams started looking like a Republican.
he is right now. He's like, yeah,
Yeah,
he's like they're destroying
yeah.
the state.
I think Trump said, "Look, if I get elected, you're protected."
Of course. It's the same thing with Joe
It was
Biden.
brilliant. It was brilliant. The
I
left
think, like,
underestimated Trump. We all underestimated
yeah,
Trump.
we did all underestimate him to a certain degree, but I also think that it was important that at Butler, PA happened, because I think that that's what galvanizes the guy to do things the way he's doing them now. There's no more appeasement. There's no more playing games. It is, I'm Don Trump Leone. Kiss the ring, bow the knee. I will take care, and I will take care of you.
He
Here's
has a
my word.
new
My word is
sense of
good.
purpose. He
Yeah,
has a
Was that?
sense of purpose that he would
Yes.
not have had. And by the way, the other guy with a sense of purpose who I wouldn't turn my back on if I were any of them is Steve fucking Bannon.
yeah.
Uh,
Yeah, yeah.
I'll say.
You like
And,
Now,
and that,
Here's a question I've been thinking about. Who has not yet been formally affiliated with the administration who you're saying there's got to be an announcement? What are the other players who are missing? You could say, for example, by example, Tucker Carlson. Is there a role being teed up for him?
I think
Who
he's
else
found
is,
his role. He's in
I
his
think he already
role.
has his role. Why would he? Why
I
would he
don't
have to
know.
have a
I'm
different
just
role?
asking.
Yeah.
Douglas McGregor. Where is Douglas? Where's Michael
Mike
Flynn?
Flynn.
Mike Flynn.
Yep.
Look at the four others that you're saying
Well,
there
the thing is,
must be a plan.
this I'll be honest with you. I'll say just real quick, Jim, and then I'll let you come in. I think all of those guys are lightning rods. I think all those people are the kinds of they're easy fodder. So you leave them off to the side, and you give them these other people who they don't know as much about and don't have as much material on. Like it makes perfect sense. Like leave those guys alone. Leave them out of the picture for as long as possible until you get the cabinet in, and then do whatever you want.
That Orwellian organization they tried to set up with Nina Jankowicz. And I wrote about her because she was such a fucking loon. And then finally she sort of has to step down, and ever so quietly, without hardly a peep in the goddamn media, they put in Michael Chertoff. I go, you're telling me Jankowicz was their first choice? And Chertoff was their second choice?
Yeah, so these two other guys might be on the shelf in case, like, Pete Hegseth doesn't get confirmed.
There's no way McGregor isn't going to be put in there. Jeff Sachs could be in there somewhere.
Yeah, as an ambassador. Oh, Jeff Sachs is ambassador to Russia?
Yeah.
Just saying at this point.
Which is a downgrade for some of his previous shit, but
Yeah, but it would be ironic. There may not be a better person for that job,
right?
And that's
it might be ironic if they put Mike Flynn back in his old job.
That would be funny, wouldn't it?
Running the Defense Intelligence Agency.
That would be funny
because I don't think they've announced who's going to do that yet.
So what other names? There's got to be more names. You got to have more names. There's got to be people who you're going. They're missing right now. They're AWOL, and they got to be in the plan somewhere.
Well, maybe again, what Trump has done so far. What Trump has done so far is to really staff the entire administration with people significantly younger than the current power set
and brawlers.
Yes,
yeah, and this
we're talking about Gen Xers now.
That you were saying a few minutes ago about why all these people in the world are caving in all of a sudden, and I think what's going on in the background is this terrific latency of retribution.
Yes,
that people are aware of, but it's not quite visible yet. And they're actually, I think, doing a great job of kind of concealing it at this point.
So Freeland and Newland both retire.
Yeah.
No, Freeland, I think is Freeland is orchestrating a coup against Justin Trudeau. That's what I think is going on. And then backdoor.
I think she's more hated than Justin Trudeau.
Yeah, I think
I understand that, but I'm talking about this is within liberal. This is within the Liberal Party politics itself. Yeah. It's a fundamentally different. I'm not talking about at a national election level. Okay.
We're now making a mistake if they do
how can they keep this thing cobbled together long enough to pull off whatever it is they need? It's the same thing that's going on in Germany, same thing that Macron is doing in France. It's all extend and pretend because they really do the sense I get out of Europe as I watch the way the Europeans are acting right now. It's very clear that they're like the Y-Wings in Star Wars. Stay on target until they're blown up. They don't have another plan. They don't have anything else. They've just been told, stay on target. We're going to make another attempt at this.
They're going to get blown up.
And I think they're all going to get blown up. I mean, I'm watching like, did you see what the friggin' bond market did after Jerome Powell cut by 25 basis points? Did anybody watch the collapse of the euro? And I got an email from a patron. And he's like, dude, the DXY is at 108. I'm like, I looked at the euro and I spit my coffee across. I had to clean up my entire desk because I was laughing so fucking hard. I'm like, oh, I love Powell. So I can't help it. I'm a little gay for the guy. What am I going to say? So, because it's so obvious what he's doing. He's telling everybody shit's worse than we ever thought it was. We're not out of the woods yet. Ignore the inflation numbers. Because they're not even real. Two, they're deflationary impulses coming. Why would you cut interest rates at this moment in time? Two reasons. One, 3 days earlier, they leaked it that the Biden administration lied about all the jobs reports and that the unemployment rate is probably closer to 5 or 5.5%. One,
3 million jobs.
Yeah. Okay. So and everybody's been looking for a job, and I have patrons who have been out of work for over a year. These are qualified people that they're qualified professionals. They can't get jobs because they're white.
Code writers can't get jobs.
Nobody can get a job. Half of the job listings are phantoms. All of it, right? And then so you have that on the one side.
Farm is not hiring.
Do you know?
Okay. Yeah.
Do you know that Peter Schiff said the other day on his most recent podcast that the stock market made a record for the most numbers of days that the stock market fell.
Yeah,
the most
70s.
days since the Great Depression.
Quietly.
Yeah.
Quietly.
Yeah, a couple hundred points here,
until Wednesday,
Yeah.
And
so you had that, right? So you had the unemployment results, but the inflation is still 2.7%. But if Trump and company are planning on coming in next month and cutting some large amount of money from the budget and doing engineering a government shutdown, that's a massive deflationary impulse.
yeah.
So now let's take it one step further. I was free associating about this the other day. I'm like, y'all know what I don't think I ever explained it on this podcast, but I've explained it in other areas what RINs are. RINS.
No.
That's the renewable identification number system that we use to track the ethanol that's blended into gasoline that the refiners have to buy. They have to buy lots of ethanol to blend into the gasoline. And the system there's a market for this called RINs. Well, you track the RINs price versus the wholesale price of gasoline, and you realize that it's yet another fuckery system designed to raise the price of gas when oil is cheap and lower the price of gas when oil is high, and for them to fuck with the price of gasoline in order to print the CPI that they want. Well, do away with RINs on January 21st. I don't know if it was put in as an EPA rule or executive order or legislation. I don't know this, but imagine tomorrow if RINs were taken off the fucking game board. The price of gasoline would drop 75 cents a gallon. Somewhere between 60 and 75 cents a gallon. I haven't looked at the numbers since like November. Because I chart it every once in a while. I chart the RINs price versus the wholesale price of gasoline every couple of months. I update the chart. The numbers are posted on the EPA's website every week, every Thursday. The new numbers come out. Not really that important. What's important is that there's a positive number for the RINs market. By the way, the RINs market is collapsing because we have so much friggin' corn, and we have corn prices in the dirt. All this stuff. It's a massive boondoggle to subsidize corn farmers and to subsidize destroying our economy, because there's two things that blending ethanol into our gasoline does. One, it forces the re-engineering of the engines, because ethanol burns far more corrosively than gasoline does. It's destroyed all the small engines in this country. Like all your standard Briggs and Stratton, weed whackers and lawnmowers.
That's why you got to put premium gas with no ethanol.
That's why you've got to put ethanol-free marine grade gas in your small engines, right? Because they're not engineered for this stuff. And then so we have that. It also doesn't burn with as much energy, right? So they're subsidizing the price of gasoline down. By extension, ethanol-free gasoline is like 70 cents a gallon more expensive than it should be, because they can only produce so much of it. So change that entire market. Our cars, become 8 to 10% more efficient, because you get 8 to 10% more energy out of a gallon of gasoline. So all of a sudden, everybody's energy costs for going back and forth to work drop by 8%. Your cars run longer because, you're not burning corrosive shit in your fucking car, your engine all the time. And if any of the seals fail, or any of the metallurgy fails of the pistons, rings, and the coatings and all this shit that had to be re-engineered for this crap, like, it's insane. All that together is a massive deflationary impulse. It's also a massive efficiency improvement in the American economy. Like, fuck you overnight.
Do you think the Trumpists know that?
6 months from now, when you get rid of all the blended, the blending credits, it would change.
Do the Trumpists know that?
I don't know, but I keep pounding my shoe on the table like Khrushchev about it every podcast I go on anymore in order to try and make everybody aware of this. And I actually brought it up to a friend of mine the other day. We had dinner the other night with like Larry Johnson and a couple other people. And I brought this up. I'm like, guys, this is the big one. And they're like, oh, fuck, you're right. I'm like, yes,
Sounds
tell
big.
your friends in the transition table, right? Because the RINs market needs to go away. It's another one of these fucking Davosian, sand and the gear works designed to make the entire market, the entire American economy less efficient and give government pricing control levers over the price of gasoline.
Did you write about this yet?
I haven't written about it, but I've done this. I've done half a dozen podcasts with this rant in it. So I've been talking about this for 2 years. I mean, I did a podcast with Eric Peters on this and cafe standards and everything else about 1.5 years ago. That everybody, if you want to understand like why cars are expensive, why the market is fucked up, listen to the podcast I did with Eric Peters. I don't remember the number. Maybe.
But now, Tom, if they sought to eliminate this, now they would start be creating a huge problem with the farmers. Then, right?
It would in the short term. So it would be one of those things where, like, if you listen to Vivek, right? We're all talking about like the things we can and can't do in order to, fix the budget, right, and to fix the spending. So we have all these government employees. I mean, UBI recipients. Like just happen to call them government workers. You want to get rid. You want to we need to get them off the payroll. We need to get them stopping. And we have to. And then the biggest problem everybody has. Well, that would be a terrible hit to GDP. It would create unemployment and everything else. Like Vivek has been quite clear about this. Put them on 2-year severance.
Right.
Now, what you're doing there is, in the short term, you're paying them for 2 fucking years. But guess what? You were paying them for the next 20 years anyway. Because half of these people
to do nothing,
my age or younger, they're 10 to 12 years from actual retirement. They're doing nothing, and they've already got their 20 in. And so they're just padding their pension. If you cut them off now, you cut a massive amount of the unfunded liabilities of taking care of these people at inflated prices for the rest of their lives.
Yeah, and you've got an unassailable excuse for doing it by giving them 2 years to get their shit together.
You give them 2 years. They're not on the unemployment rolls. Yeah, we're paying for them. And we would just do the same thing with the farmers. Like, look, we extend the corn subsidies for a couple more years and we incentivize other aspects of the agricultural markets while we work out the malinvestment in corn production, which will take a couple of years to work out. We incentivize the farmers to stop growing corn and start growing something else, blah, 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 blah. And you have a rational plan of how to unfuck these systems. And from a balance sheet perspective and from an investor's perspective, I'm an investor and I want to invest money in the United States. I say, well, I don't want to invest money in the United States. 4 years from now, AOC could become fucking president. And then what do? I'm halfway through a build on a goddamn factory or, this or whatever. Like, no, we can't do that. You have to build a durable system. You have to build a durable functional change. And you also have to clean up the unfunded liabilities of the United States, because who's going to invest in the debt of the United States if we still have, say, let's just run a number. If we have $200 trillion worth of unfunded liabilities in Social Security, Medicare, and all the other entitlement programs, pension systems, all that stuff, and we cut off 25% of the government workforce tomorrow and put them on 2-year severance, we're not paying, we have 2 years worth of liabilities with these people, but we don't have the next 20. And how much does that cut off the unfunded future liabilities? Because that's all part of that calculation. Say it's 200 trillion now, we cut those people off.
I don't think that is in the calculation. I don't think
I
that
do.
is.
I absolutely do.
I do not think that they're projecting these people working another 20 years and then becoming a liability. I don't think that's in the numbers.
No, well, I mean, if they're not, they're not. But
by the way, for the record, E.J. Antoni and Peter St. Onge wrote an inflation article describing the inflationary impact of regulations, and it's very big. So there's that. I think your model is very good. I think your timescales and your magnitudes are off. And that is, I think that what you describe is a scratching of the surface. It's like if you dump FEMA, $29 billion, right? So what, right? I want FEMA dumped. I want the Pyrrhic win of FEMA going away. Sure. But it's not going to dent any of this financial problem.
Stockman said that
well,
if
it
you
does. It
fired
does if you
70%
also
of the
change
workforce,
It
Stockman
does if
said,
you change. I was saying, it does, Dave. If you start changing the way people perceive and issue the future value of the debt that we're issuing today, and we change the way we do that. So let's do all of that along with a gold cover clause on new treasuries.
Jim.
Stockman said that if you fired 70% of the workforce, and Stockman was a former director of the Office of Management and Budget, if you fired 70% of the workforce, you'd only save $700 billion,
right.
which, compared to the actual debt is not a whole lot.
Right, but that's $700 billion that you're deficit. Not running on an annualized basis. That's a lot of money because that.
Well,
that
yeah, it is. It is $750 billion.
But it doesn't get you to 250 trillion. It's the problem. It doesn't get you near that. The other thing is, I think the time scale. So I do 100% agree that if we could get the job started of cleaning up our act, fine. But we're not gonna see benefits in Trump's administration. It's going to be a historically important moment that they'll look back and say that was the seed that got planted. It's like when grandfather plants the seeds of walnut trees and the grandson gets to harvest the trees. Second of all, this idea that we're going to get some big ass boom in the stock market because Trump's going to help the economy. The stock market is 200% over historical average value. People say, well, we inflated away. If you actually look at the valuation metrics, they're always an inflation sensitive price over an inflation sensitive metric. Inflation does nothing to change a stock market valuation. It's game over once you're up there. That means you've got a 60 to 70% correction in your future by a mechanism that no one knows that could involve treading water for, I've calculated, 45 fucking years. It could involve dropping 70% without a V-bounce. It could involve some combination of those. Any way you do the math, the boomers are fucked.
So does Trump become the next FDR in another Great Depression? Well, it seems to me like maybe he does.
Well, if he makes mistakes, he does.
Yeah. But we also have to remember that it's a big world out there.
But FDR had 4 terms.
And everybody else is more fucked than we are.
By the way, for the record, I wrote 15 pages on the revisionist history of World War II and FDR. FDR was the biggest fuckhead to ever occupy the Oval Office.
What do you think his principal mistakes were with the Depression?
His big problem is not the Depression. His problem is World War II, it turns out. FDR's right-hand man was a Soviet spy. There were Soviet spies riddled throughout his administration. Stalin called every shot in World War II. Stalin made sure World War II continued so that Western countries would destroy each other. Stalin won World War II. He got half of Europe. That's what he wanted. Stalin even determined that we land at Normandy and not some other place. FDR's right-hand man was Stalin's boy. And this is a guy who sat with FDR for 10 hours plus a day.
And that's Harry Hopkins?
That's Harry Hopkins. Then you go back to the Depression. You read your way back. I read 6 books this year to try. This is not exactly martyr-made reading, but this is still, it was a start. And you go back to the Depression, and FDR, first and foremost, he was a compulsive liar. He made promises he could not give less of a fuck about fulfilling. His administration was constantly having to cover his ass. Every single goddamn WPA and AAA and all sorts of different programs, every single fucking handout was given to buy political favors. The whole thing was about buying votes. At the very end, Morgenthau, who was his financial genius, got to the end and said, we spent so much money. We are so in debt and we achieved nothing. FDR, and he gives great examples. He says, so for example, the price controls. And then, you hear about minimum wage keeping people from getting employed, but the examples in one of the books I read were really, really pristine, where some small business is trying to stay alive and they're cutting the price because no one has any fucking money. And so they're just trying to make it work. They're selling apples on the street corner, and FDR says you can't sell it for that price. And the buyers can't buy it for his price. And so they go out of business. It's even simpler than the minimum wage. I got to sell a car for $500. My buyers can't afford more than $400. I'm done. It's over.
Yeah, I know. No.
He jailed people. He jailed people.
I know. Price floors and price ceilings always create shortages.
Never work.
This is like literally the first 3 weeks of Economics 101.
But it was his sociopathy. It was his sociopathy that makes him such a despicable human being.
Here's something I wish you'd talk about. The phenomenon in the Great Depression, which was so deeply experienced by so many people, is something that we have never really experienced, and
since then,
until maybe a little lately, is the idea that there's no money, that nobody has any money, that money is gone. And how does that happen in today's scenario, where you have a disinflation or a deflationary episode? And all of a sudden, there's no money. Where does the money go? Is it simply the debts not being repaid, or what? What is that condition?
It gets complicated.
It's really complicated.
But first and foremost,
how did you see it happening then in the 1930s when
we're on a gold standard? Let's start with that. So when we say no money, the money was pretty rigid, and it should have stayed that way. We should have cleared out the debris. Mellon was right. Liquidate. We would have gotten back on our feet. It would have been a painful period. Then we would have gotten back on our feet. But no, we put obstacles in the way of recovery. Today, the problem is if it's deflationary, you're going to take out the boomers. You're going to take out the guys who
their
think they have enough
retirement
money.
systems all go.
That's right. It's obliterated. If the average, let's say you're a boomer, you've got $2 million, you think you're going to be fine, and all of a sudden you have 600,000. You're not going to be fine. And by the way, if let's say the boomers think they have $2 million, when it comes time to spend that money, who the fuck's going to buy it? The millennials? They don't have any fucking money. They're living in the boomers' basement still.
Well,
right. So there's the mechanism to transfer wealth without price discovery. Is not imaginable. Who's going to buy the McMansions from us?
Well,
Chinese assets.
When you say price discovery,
well, the big question then is if you're fixing the trajectory of the balance sheet of the country. This is important. Then you watch the money come in from overseas. That's going to be very difficult to do if the dollar is rising, right? Unless we're talking about all those dollars that are sitting overseas coming home in order to keep prices up. I'll give you a perfect example. I was talking about this the other day.
But dollars coming in from overseas means that that they're going to be buying our assets.
Yes.
Right. They're going to own us, right? We're selling.
Well, they're going to own some of the assets, and then they're going to sell. And then when the dollar's really strong and their currencies suck, it's all going to flow right back out again. But part of the reason why the money flowed out in the Great Depression was because the money flowed. This is Martin Armstrong's argument. He's far more. His explanation is far better than Bernanke, Friedman, Anna Schwartz, all these fucking people. The money flowed in the 1920s. What created the Roaring '20s wasn't the Fed. It was the sovereign debt crisis all across Europe. It was the German hyperinflation. It was all of that stuff. That money all flowed in here, boosted the stock market, boosted our assets, built factories and everything else. And then when Europe crashed before we did in the early 1930s, the money flowed all the way back out again because there were bargains. You can go buy Europe at 30 cents on the dollar.
I read Fed minutes from the 1920s. They knew this was a problem.
Right.
1926 Fed minutes are talking about how risky everything's getting and how bizarrely out of balance everything's getting. And the guy says, I can't even remember who the fuck the Fed chair was at that point. And he says, I have to be careful what I say because I can cause problems just saying the wrong thing. Sounds familiar, doesn't it? Right.
Mhm.
It does.
And so they were having congressional hearings on speculation. Now, the problem with the 20s was not stock speculation.
No.
The problem with the 20s was we created a consumer bubble.
Mhm.
So we were selling cars to people with layaway plans and people were consuming new products. And what happened is when it turned down, all of a sudden no one had any money. Now, here's the funny story. I was talking to my dad when I was in high school. My dad had tremendous wisdom. He ran a company from top to bottom, ran a company. So he knew economics. And I said to him, okay, Dad, so let me see if I got this right. You could get rich in the 30s by buying real estate. He said, yes, but no one had any money. And that thought stuck with me. And it became, look, you can't buy assets on sale unless you have fucking money, which means you got to have money at the top when assets are not on sale, because if you write it down, you don't have any fucking money.
Well, you got to find somewhere to keep it.
Or you sell out at the top.
You've got to get out at the top, which means you've got to get out while everyone else is partying their fucking asses off, which means like when I bought gold in 99, gold didn't turn until 2001. You got to white knuckle the pain.
Yeah.
And you can't say, well, look, I'm going to buy NVIDIA and I'm going to get out at the right. That doesn't work. It does not work. And so you've got to be able to say, look, in 10 years, here's the story. Do you think 10 years from now, when the Mag 7 chapter is written, is it going to be a success story? No. It's going to be a nightmare. It's going to be
pets.com. It's going to be pets.com all over again.
It's going to be nifty50.com, housing bubble, Mag 7.
Yeah, no, I agree. I agree completely. I'm telling people now.
But this is why saving the United States is not going to be in any way, shape, or form a painless transition of euphoria. I mean, it's just not even close.
Dave, I never interpret anything I ever say about how we get out of this. I
just got to go over here.
Yeah, no. How we get out of this as any kind of, we're going to get out of this without getting our hair mussed, to quote George C. Scott from Dr. Strangelove. Like, 20 to 30 million dead tops, I'm not looking around here, guys.
Mr. President.
It's going to suck.
20 or 30 million.
The 1970s look like, I think the 1970s were depression. I don't care what anybody says. I grew up during the 1970s.
Oh, it was a total depression.
Absolutely it was. And it was 10 years long.
Well, the economists are morons too, because the economists said, you can't have stagflation. This is nuts. They go, let me see if I got this right.
Keynesians, and they believe
Let me see if I got this right. They go, so people, the dollar that they're earning buys less, but that's not stagnating, right? Take away their PhDs if they can't see that one.
Dave, they believed in stupid shit like the fucking Phillips curve.
I know.
Okay, well, and there are still economists out there who believe in the Phillips curve after the 1970s made it like one of the dumbest things ever, right next to the lipid hypothesis and global warming.
So do we go to hyperinflation, or do we have no money? Which one do you think it's going to be?
They're two sides of the same coin.
Well, yeah, in a way they are.
It's got
to be one or the other.
High inflation, hyperinflation are two different things.
High inflation and hyperinflation are two different things. But
that's right.
Hyperdeflation and hyperinflation are the two sides of the same coin. It's the same problem. Because money dies in either end.
I don't think so. Hyperinflation destroys society completely.
Mm-hmm.
And so does hyperdeflation.
Well, having no money did not destroy the United States.
That's right. That's right. Of course, we were made out of different stuff, but
yeah.
Well,
we a bunch of whiny bitches,
but in the broad scheme of things is that everybody realizes that they have to do things completely differently. Mm-hmm. And that the definition of money at that moment in time has to change.
And that is
because
exactly
if nobody has any money, you got to come up with new money.
That's exactly the nature of the greater meaning of this Trump period, which is we've discovered that we have to do government completely differently.
Yeah.
That everybody has noticed that.
And I think that
except for the Democratic Party, the actual people who function within the Democratic Party
But
umbrella, not
Trump's
just
biggest risk, the biggest risk with Trump is that he will try to invade the economy to improve it.
Yeah,
invade.
that is his biggest risk.
He will intervene. He will try to intervene in the economy. I don't think he has the capacity to keep his dirty paws off of the economy.
Mm-hmm.
Now, if you consider fixing the economy, doing things like getting rid of government stuff, that's fine. But if he starts trying to jerk the economy to where he wants it to be, then he will have made a big mistake, in my opinion.
That's why I'm wondering if he becomes this Roosevelt character who discovers that he has to endure through a period of hardship and can only do it by offering some comfort to the citizens of this land.
That's the utopian view of Roosevelt.
Yeah, exactly.
That's the false narrative of Roosevelt.
That's the
liar. That's the liar.
Well, it's the showbiz Hollywood version of Franklin Roosevelt, and the Broadway version from Little Orphan Annie.
Well, actually, it's the first 5 minutes worth of voiceover in Saving Private Ryan.
Yeah.
Yeah. Tell me
about that. The opening of Saving Private Ryan was fine. Okay, I haven't watched Saving Private Ryan in years, but I remember the last time I watched it. It opens with a shot of the American flag with the sun behind it. So the American flag is almost completely
blacked
colorless.
Out. Yeah,
not blacked out, colorless, because the so it's faded. So that's Spielberg's opening shot of the movie. While we get a voiceover talking about how we all came together during the Great Depression, and it was terrible and everything, but at least someone out there felt like somebody out there cared, because FDR was doing all these things to help us, and then
he was good at that.
And so the whole story, and the whole story around Saving Private Ryan, that's what frames the story about why these men decided to go to Europe and fight World War II and to fight them. And so I absolutely, if you don't watch the whole movie, just watch the first 5 minutes of it again from that perspective. Complete fucking boomerist hagiography of FDR.
But Dave, you say he was good at it, and that's my point. Maybe Trump will have to get good at that.
Well,
I think Trump is already good at that.
Well, but once he's given the power, he is at risk of, he was trying to get the Fed to drop rates for him and pump the markets and stuff down. That was Trump 1.0. Trump 2.0 is a different beast, and I don't know what he will be, but he's not the same.
What I see here right now, guys, and I'll be honest with you, and I've said this before, and I'll continue to say it until I'm proven wrong, is that the markets are wrong right now. Powell's going to cut deeper under Trump than he would have under Harris. I think he's going to cut the 3% in 2025. I think this whole ab reaction after the cut from and the dot plot moved, and it was all the dot plot that moved. And Powell, talked a good game, but Powell likes to talk a good game. Always watch what he actually does as opposed to what he says.
That's exactly right.
So what I think is coming, and what the markets haven't quite digested yet, and rightly so, they should be in distrust but verify mode, which is that Trump is coming in like a wrecking ball and planning on cutting a whole lot of money from the budget and trying to reorganize how we do business. The market wants to be proven, wants them to do it before they're willing to sign off on this. And so in order for this for any of that to work, you've got to get a normalized yield curve, which, by the way, we're getting. That's why I laughed my ass off on Wednesday afternoon when I looked at the sell-off in the long end of the yield curve, because I now saw, oh look, we have a positive 20 basis point 210 spread for the first time in 3 years.
Yeah, but that means we're fucked too.
Well, does it, or does it mean that we actually?
Yes.
Why?
Yes, history shows.
Because to me, that says the small and medium community banks now have the opportunity to lend into a positive environment where they didn't have it before. And Powell's cutting rates on the short end and allowing them to go to the discount window in order to fix the holes in their balance sheets. Because
the reason we're fucked is based on what actually happens. What happens is the name of it. When you go from an inverted yield curve to a normal yield curve, The name itself tells you what happens. It's called a bear steepener. When that yield curve goes uninverted, the markets dive.
Well,
Period.
we've had the markets. Well, Dave, we've had a bear steepener curve for the last 4 months.
Your time scales are too short. You're on a time scale that's just not right.
Dave, what's the mechanism for that?
It's a fascinating. I don't have a good answer to that, but history shows it. Here's what history shows over the last. Let's just stay with the modern era.
It's a bear steepener within the context of the bond market. The bond market.
No, it's a bear steepener. No, it's a bear steepener within context of the equity market. Here's what happened in 2000. Inverted, went straight. Fed started dropping rates. Almost to the day, we dropped 50%. We drop while the Fed's dropping rates. Okay, you got 4 months where we didn't drop. I guarantee you it's coming. Drop. The market drops, and then the market stops dropping when the Fed's done lowering. You get to 2007.
I understand that, and in years past, we also had a different. In cycles past, we've also had. Look, I'm not arguing that we shouldn't see a cut in the equity markets. That's not what I'm saying. But in this context, we are in a different world today because we are actually pricing our own fucking dollars via SOFR than we were previously.
LIBOR matters. The LIBOR SOFR thing matters. 200% over fair value. That bubble is going to blow the fuck up. It doesn't matter what's going. It could be some guy goddamn farted into a fan on the other side of the world. It doesn't matter. 200% over fair value is a stack of blocks 20 feet tall, waiting for something.
Good thing they don't eat. Good thing they don't eat frijoles in Shanghai.
You're arguing for a 70% deflation of all credit-based assets,
right? And no V bounce.
Yeah.
Okay.
Wouldn't it actually go beyond 70% if we go?
No.
You know what? No.
And the German DAX, yes.
This market
the German
may
DAX,
be
absolutely.
Over. This market may be over, Tom. We've been in a bull market since 1981, while interest rates went from very high to very low, and China sold us goods for nothing. Russia sold us resources for nothing. The politics have changed. The last 45 years are recency bias. The last 45 years are recency bias. The V bounce, not only I don't think is necessarily going to come, 60 to 70%. 60 to 70% gets us to historical average value. The average is created by spending half your statistically weighted time above, half your statistically weighted time below. That means that if we go down 70%, we do no damage, and it just somehow parks at the average.
The same argument that we were having the last time we were on. Are we talking in nominal or real terms?
I'm talking real.
Okay. I'm okay with that argument in real terms.
Right.
Nominal terms.
The market.
Nominal terms of the stock market is not going to drop 70%.
From 67 to 81, the market didn't move. Investors lost 75%.
Yes, agreed.
Right. So they can inflate the shit out of the market, but you are still going to get a truck up your ass.
No argument. No argument.
And therefore,
again, but it's like, and where should you be putting your money?
Is that the
what I've been saying
Bitcoin?
From the beginning is like, you know this, like my whole fucking gig is I'm a fucking contrarian. My whole gig is I've been telling people gold and commodities and bear assets I could tell you what my portfolio for my newsletter looks like. I got 2 different newsletters. They both say the same damn thing.
So I think
is that the rush to Bitcoin that we're seeing
guys.
now?
That's the name of the game.
I mean, the Bitcoin could also be a sign of the mania. The Bitcoin, the hodlers are gonna get crazy, but the Bitcoin could be the sign. I'm agnostic on Bitcoin. The dumbbell.
What I expect.
You need an inflation hedge on a big chunk, and you need a deflation hedge on a big chunk, and those are basically golden cash sort of things.
Right. What I think at this point is that we're going to wind up with nominally nothing is going to change. We may even see the Dow push up, and we may see the Dow push to 50 grand before, during all of this, because there's a reorganization of dollar flows around the world, and that could easily push the Dow up another 20%. By the way, we're up 700 points right now as we come into the weekly close. So Right now,
the end of the year.
By the way, right now the Dow's weekly chart.
Wait,
and by the way, just to remind you, I'm looking at the weekly trend channel, and I'm like, yeah, that looks pretty solid. I hate to say it, from a technician's perspective, the Dow doesn't look bad.
Your time scales are 3 orders of magnitude.
No, right now this matters because
it doesn't matter
right now. I understand you're talking 20 years.
It doesn't.
The market cares like what's going to happen in the next 30 days.
It doesn't. If the market could go up 50%, you're going to give all that back, and you're going to give another 10 years of gain back.
We're talking two different things right now.
I know, but the point being, people are listening, and if you say the market's doing fine and they take that and bank it in any way, shape, or form, they're camping out on a railroad track.
Okay. My point is, what I expect out of this administration is they're going to protect asset values in nominal terms. I'm going to make it abundantly clear in nominal terms.
The only way they can do that is if they fuck them so badly in the grocery store. The only way they're going to pull that off is if everything that they got to buy gets royally fucked. Mm-hmm. And so you're going to, the boomers, if it's 200% over fair value, they're going to take 2/3 of your purchasing power one way or the other. I personally would rather see the stocks drop.
Me too.
I do not.
I think it's going to be a mixture of both.
I can defend against that.
I think you're going to see no returns in the stock market for 5 years. I think you could easily see no return in the stock market for 5 years.
No. You're going to get in real terms. You're going to get no returns in the market for 50 years.
Oh, okay.
That's the math. To undo 200% over fair value. The economy has to grow at 2.5% for 45 years to undo that. So you can undo it by either dropping the mother, or you can tread water for, as Bill Cosby said, Noah, how long can you tread water? Mm-hmm. It would take 45 years of real economic growth to block and tackle our way out of a 200% over fair value to get back to historical average. Now, if you want to say it stays elevated, it means that, let's say you have an index. It's 100 to 1 P.
Dave, it's also at what price is the collateral? At $2,500 gold? No, at $25,000 gold? That's a different story.
Yeah, but what is the collateral?
What's the collateral? The collateral
is houses. Is it houses?
Collateral's houses, factories, land, things like that.
The factories have already lost their value. The houses are not only way overpriced, but they exist within this suburban matrix, which has no future.
The collateral's whether your populace is educated. The collateral's the kind of shit that says. And by the way, one of the things Tom was describing before, and I can't even remember the context, but it was about building a factory, not knowing if AOC would be president, right? That gets back to what was considered one of the great aspects of the United States, and that is we had phenomenal property value laws. We had property laws. Mm-hmm. And now those laws have eroded because the presidential campaign, the president of the United States and Congress can undermine or support those laws depending on who's in power. And that is a fundamental problem.
It is a fundamental problem. It's part of the reason why I've been, no argument here. I think it's all I think we're in a perilous state. I also think we're describing everything that needs to be reformed.
Right.
I also think
now you have to start thinking in terms of the impulse of this. If you want my honest opinion is that we have seen this market levitate the way it has because the rest of the world is being drained into the United States, as fucked as we are, and we are fucked. The world is fucked. The balance sheets of all the major economies around the world are the balance sheets of all the central banks around the world are all maxed to all the credit cards are maxed. So let me clarify a point here. Let me quickly clarify a point. People don't understand. They say, well, for every lender, there's a borrower, vice versa. Therefore, that can't be. The world can be in a global debt crisis. What is a global debt crisis? A global debt crisis, here's the way you create one instantly. Let's say we're not.
And all of a sudden, the leaders of the world get together in Davos or something, and say, okay, we are going to promise everybody free health care and paid retirement for the rest of their lives. You just created a debt problem.
Yes,
because you have not created a whiff of wealth to pay off that.
I know.
And so this idea that there's borrowers and lenders and it's a zero-sum game is wrong. When the world has promised all its people more than the world can produce, that's a global debt crisis.
And that is exactly where we are. Now the question is going to be, now the question is going to be going forward, when the wealth that exists, the real wealth that exists, where is it going to flow to?
China. Yeah, well,
that moment when everybody realizes the world is fucked.
I'm not sure that the real wealth that exists is real.
The central banks have been levitating the value of asset prices. Now let's start discussing how you get out of that.
I'm not sure that the wealth is real.
Finish your. So here's an interesting plot. There's a plot that shows the performance of the market in capital unintensive businesses versus a plot in capital intensive businesses. And the market in capital unintensive ones has gone parabolic, and the one in capital intensive one is flatter than a pancake. What it tells you is we have not invested in capital.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
That's your point.
And that's where the shift is. And that's
built
the shift.
Factories. We have not built factories.
Those asset prices have to come down. The other asset prices have to come up. There are opportunities where there's concentration of capital in one area or concentration of money in one area. There's an underinvestment of cap. There's an underapplication of money in other areas.
We've also been converting.
That's what has to be dealt with.
Wait a minute. We've also been converting capital from instruments that really represent wealth, like investments in factories that will produce future products, into investments that are fugazis, like mortgage-backed securities and collateralized loan obligations and things like that.
Pushing the jello.
I'll go one step further, Jim. I'll go one step further. We have overinvested in purple hair dye, nose rings, and Marxism. That's what we've overinvested in. Yeah. That's what that shit looks like.
You forgot the Prince Albert.
In a can?
No, that's
let him out.
That's a dick ring.
Right. Prince all Albert's of those things. Like we've overinvested in those things, and we think it's wealth, and it's still money moving around the system. That money has to be diverted from that area of the economy to the productive area of the economy. That's the reorganization. That's what you're talking about.
What I'm talking about is
I also believe that that's where the opportunity is, and so there's.
I think we have been producing a tremendous amount of entropy that has gone unnoticed, and it is materializing in what we consider to be money and investable entities.
It's just a false economy. It's really just a false economy.
Agreed. And we've suckered everybody into this model.
And by the way, Bitcoin is inflationary. Why? Because how much Bitcoin is there? 2 trillion, something like that. That's a perceived wealth.
I don't know what the aggregate is.
Yeah, it's 1.6, 1.7.
And are people leveraging against that now?
Well, certainly. But what it also
right now it's collateralizing the repo markets, but that's a different conversation for a different day.
There's a great collateral for you. It is a perceived wealth that did not exist. It came from zero. We created nothing to produce it.
Actually, no, we did create something. We created entropy. Wait a minute. We created entropy by using a tremendous amount of electric power to create the Bitcoin, which is a fugazi in the first place.
Is it? I'm asking this sincerely because, as far as I'm concerned, what is money other than tokenized energy application?
Yeah, except that the energy used for Bitcoin is like digging a hole and then filling it up again.
Is it, or is it a way, of sucking the excess money, the excess? Like at the end of the day, do you know what Bitcoin actually does? It takes all the energy that the electricity we were sending to ground, and we're tokenizing it, as opposed to wasting it by having it go
that's the optimistic view.
Ground.
Yeah,
that's
exactly.
the optimistic view.
Tokenized it and captured a portion of that.
That's the optimistic argument.
I don't think that's not. I don't think that's
now. Here is
argument. I think that's
here's
exactly the truth. because that's how Bitcoin operates. When you understand
I think
how Bitcoin
you're
realize
correct, but it
wasted energy.
thinks it's the truth.
And it's partially
The
true. It's
hodlers
partially
think
true.
it's
No,
the
I
truth.
know, Jim. I'm completely. I understand how Bitcoin operates, and I can tell you that we create, in order to pressurize the grid, keep it pressurized at a constant voltage, and we have to send 30% of the electricity we generate worldwide to ground. That's a lot of energy, and that's a lot of capital. That's
So you're saying they're not consuming any energy that isn't already toast,
already being produced. All we're doing is capturing, as if when I understand, if you do the math, it's like 1/4% of
but
the
it's also not creating
that
anything.
we send to ground. We're not even capturing a lot of it. So maybe we're actually much more productive than we think we are, and maybe it's just an unbelievably inefficient way that we generate electricity to power our world.
It could be, but then again, it could be.
We're all living in a false reality. We're creating a hell of a lot more wealth than we think we are.
It could be
because Bitcoin is a bare asset that can be.
That's not wealth, though. That's aggregating wealth. It's not wealth. It's wealth to the extent that the development.
It's no more or less wealth than going out and digging gold up out of the ground and sticking in a fucking vault and calling it wealth.
I agree.
It's savings, and savings is the basis by which you create more wealth.
Well.
Without a real pool of savings, there is no wealth generation engine.
Well,
yeah, but gold is gold, and Bitcoin is math.
And Bitcoin is.
You're creating math, or as we say now in today's America, math.
Well, I'm sorry. Is math not real?
Meaning Bitcoin is racist.
No, Bitcoin is racist. Of course it is.
I think civilization is massively negative entropy, as Jim would say. Yeah. And the way you keep civilization alive is by putting constant enthalpy into it.
Agreed.
Civilization is enthalpy. It's just if you're taking system that is trying to become disordered, and you're creating order. You're creating skyscrapers. You're creating things that are massively negative entropy, which means therefore that to create wealth, which to me is to enhance civilization.
Well,
it ultimately finds its source in fossil fuels right now.
Yeah.
Well, no argument. And all I'm saying is, maybe what Bitcoin actually represents in this model that we just laid out is it's a reaction and a means by which to capture enough of that enthalpy that we're already creating, right? We're creating electricity,
right.
We're creating negative entropy, right? Capture that and storing it for that day when we do come back.
I think we get that. You've made that argument 3 times now. My argument is that
I made that argument 3 times and I haven't heard it. I'm sorry. I know you disagree with me, but
you're not storing energy to the extent you can't take Bitcoin and turn it back into a.
We've captured it into an architecture of mathematics.
Well, unless you're
not the same as a real thing.
Unless you're going to use that as the basis by which to fund another round of expansion or another round of growth.
No, I don't buy that either.
Guys, I'm an Austrian. I believe in the pool of real savings.
Right.
I believe the pool of real savings is what you have to save first before you can invest. Keynesians don't believe this. Keynesians believe the exact opposite. You have to lend first in order to create savings. It's bullshit. You have to create savings first in order to have a situation that's predictable enough to lengthen your time horizon. You have to have savings first.
Bitcoin is a ledger. It's not wealth. Gold is a ledger. It's not wealth.
Silver
is wealth, but it's not wealth.
Why is silver wealth?
Using electronics.
Because you actually make electronics.
I think a cruise missile has 500 pounds in the nose cone. Just to be fair.
Yeah. No, silver is
real quick. Just
silver is an industrial metal. Silver is an industrial metal.
Saying society is massively
but wealth is built on savings. You can't have wealth before you have savings. You have to save first.
Savings is a bean counting. Savings is a bean counting.
Savings is your store of food that you have and that you have.
I know. It's not Bitcoin.
It's stored energy that you have.
Well,
for tomorrow.
It's probably neither.
Tokenize that in the form of money.
It's neither.
And then
it's a relationship between the stored
to go build fucking keyboards.
It's a relationship between the stored savings and the real stuff. It's not just one or the other.
It's how we deploy the real savings that matters. The central banking model destroys the risk assessment of what to do with that savings
The central
in order to put
bank.
it out into the world. The Keynesians aren't wrong that there's a paradox of thrift based on the law of diminishing marginal utility. You save up until the point where you're like, I've got enough stuff to get me through next week. What do I want to do now? I want to lengthen my time horizon by building a house. After I built a house, now I have this. Then I have the next thing. Then I want shoes, and I want clothes, and I want start with the Robert Caruso economy, and then build out your law of diminishing marginal utility, your model for how people act and how they lengthen their time horizons. But you can't do any of it until you have savings. Our fucking problem is that we feel like we've eaten all of our seed corn. We have no savings left. But that's nonsense. We've underinvested, and we've taken a lot of our savings and we've put it into non-productive assets. So the non-productive assets have to fall in value then in order to take what savings we have left and deploy them into productive assets.
Savings is a bean counting mechanism to keep track of what other people owe you in terms of real work, real labor, real goods. So, for example, if your wife,
you're assuming that my savings has a counterparty risk, which I don't agree with.
No. That's not. No. I didn't say that at all. I didn't. No. I didn't because I didn't say whether that was a good savings mechanism or not. If you are owed $1 million, you think you have savings. If your wife owes it to you, you don't have savings. So you can't save. If a family has savings, but it's owed to itself, that's not savings.
Okay, I'm not.
Calm down.
We're using the term. We're using these terms way differently.
But savings has a currency component to it, as you're using, as I understand it. To me, savings is the house you own.
Savings is literally the stuff you have, and that you earn through profitably taking your energy, laying your will upon the universe, and creating something you didn't have yesterday. I don't give a fuck if it's firewood to feed into your fireplace or if it's a bar of gold. No one has a counterparty. No one has a counterparty to that. I don't owe anybody that.
No. But the way you save for the future, like for example,
literally making the Keynesian argument. This is fascinating. I'm going to shut up.
No. I'm trying to get away from using money for savings. I'm trying to get away from using monetary definitions of savings.
I'm not using monetary definitions of savings.
Well, but is anyone else hearing that tone? I am hearing that tone. So you talk about we don't have the savings to invest. I don't know what that means.
Okay, savings is the things that you have around you that you've created, and you've used profit and loss and accurate risk assessment in the past in order to create a present that you have more stuff than you had previously, and those things are then that's savings.
So when you say we don't have the savings to do X, Y, or Z, what do you mean by that? We don't have. Let's say you say we don't have the savings.
We don't have a pool.
Build the grid out.
We don't have the pool of capital and the expertise and all the things you've talked about. Like, I agree that if we don't have the people having invested in education and everything else, those are all higher order savings. But at the end of the day, it still starts with the basic freaking commodities and the basic understanding and know-how and everything else in order to deploy that savings in a way that is productive and wealth creative and wealth accretive. No, we're taking that pool of savings and we're putting it into things that are wealth destructive. Nose rings, purple hair, Marxism, blah, 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 blah. That's where we are.
Right.
Excess housing,
here's
commercial
where you
real estate
bring,
that we don't need, yada, yada, yada.
Here's where you bring currency in. Currency is a contract. And if it turns out that we owe, in currency terms, more to other countries than they owe us, then that means that the wealth that we create, they are going to get because we owe them. And forget about whether you're using Bitcoin or gold or whatever as the currency. They have a claim, which you can default on, but they have a claim to our goods and services. We will be delivering Chinese food to the Chinese if we're doing it wrong. And so the Bitcoin and dollars and gold are just accounting metrics. But it drives me. So when you say we don't have, I just want to be clear. I think we're on the same page, But the word savings troubles me so much. We don't have the resources to do things that you're saying. If you use the word resources, I'd be okay. Savings bothers me linguistically because
savings is what you've accumulated previously. We have the resources; they're out there. We've got all the timber and all the oil and all the natural gas and everything else, but they're not products at this point. They're not usable. We haven't put human capital into the turning those raw timber. A tree, I'm looking out my window. The trees right there are not productive capital. They are potential capital.
So here's the potential problem.
That's not savings. The
problem is if we have contracts, whether it's dollars in bank accounts or written contracts, whatever, with people outside the United States that says when we produce stuff, you have the right to it, which is when you have a trade imbalance. Then to say our timberland is savings is not right.
I didn't say it was savings.
Oh, I actually think it is.
I didn't. I just said it wasn't savings. I do. Or timberland isn't savings.
No, I think timberland is savings.
Not
it's
yet.
a resource.
It's not yet.
I think it is. If I owned 100 acres of walnut,
but there's still a carry cost associated
how do you
with
convert
it. You still have to turn the timber into fucking lumber. You still have to pay somebody to cut the trees down. You still have to do something with it.
I know.
There's a whole structure. Timber is a fourth order good. I'm talking about first order goods here. Savings is literally first and second order goods.
But if you didn't have the timber to get to those final products,
you're really fucked. Oh, right. I agree.
So the timber represents a savings. It's a raw product that represents savings that other people would like. Now, the problem is if our timberland has been promised to China because of contracts we have with China, which might be called currency, might be called debt, might be, you name it, then it's not our savings anymore.
That's what I'm trying to say when I say that we don't have a pool of real savings.
Now we're on the same page.
In fact, we have spent our pool of real savings by sending it overseas in the form of.
I also think we've spent our savings by signing contracts that say we don't get to keep it when we create the wealth.
I would add that our primary natural resource that we're running all our shit on, which is petroleum, is not as abundant as
absolutely
Tom thinks.
So the game saver is we go to nukes. The game saver is we go to nukes.
Oh, I know that.
Someday we wake the fuck up. We wake the fuck up.
That's about again. This is about efficiency of turning. This is about the return of. This is about your return. And now we'll get into EROEI, which I don't agree with because it's an enthalpy argument, not an entropy argument. But that's a different issue for a different day. I happen to not. I am at that point now where I do not believe that oil is a 100% non-renewable resource. I do not believe that.
So you think abiotic oil is?
I think Tommy Gold was far closer to the truth than anybody wanted to admit.
I'm still agnostic, although there's other smart guys I know who are saying the same thing now.
I don't see it just because of the heat and pressure below what they call the oil window in the crust of the earth.
No, I think it's an enzymatic reaction.
You get to a certain level.
Enzymatic
or enzymatic or catalytic reaction. I used the wrong word. Pardon my.
My genetics major just tripped me up on that one. So you think it's being catalyzed from what? What are the feedstocks down there?
Carbonaceous rocks. You have an where else do you have an isothermal system to get carbonaceous rocks into straight chain hydrocarbons without creating ring systems, by the way, which is really important.
You have nuclear energy coming from the core of the earth, and so
you do actually, and you have the world's biggest. You have by far the world's biggest nuclear reactor creating oil for us.
I'm agnostic, though. I'm still waiting for the hard evidence that's true. What's the evidence? Is there evidence?
Yes. Well, there is plenty of evidence that there's plenty of people that have drilled for oil where there should be none, and yet they find it. And
that's not evidence. That just means we don't know where there should be oil.
Well, no, that does. If your model is that your model is that we had dinosaurs, and plant life and everything else, die off and create layers and layers and then pressure and everything else, you drill into 3 miles worth of fucking granite and you hit oil. I'm sorry, I want to know how the 3 miles of granite got on top of the Like I want to know.
Geology,
It
geology.
seems so much. Again, and then we get into just
How
like,
tall
let's
is
just
Mount
use
Everest?
Occam's
How
razor.
tall is Mount Everest? Right, it's
29,000
5
feet.
miles. Yeah, right. It's like 5 miles.
6,
right?
actually.
Yeah.
Look,
how did we get 6 miles up?
But at the same time, like, you know, the do I believe like coal is a biotic process? Absolutely. Natural gas, sure. Oil,
But not oil.
that's a hard
I don't
sell.
think there's any evidence that one major oil field has ever replenished itself, and that's one of the major arguments of the abiotic oil.
And
people.
even if it's abiotic, it's getting harder to get.
Yeah.
Even if it's abiotic, it's
Is it?
telling us that. Yeah, I think so.
Yeah, and it's also found in recognizable
Why is
geologic patterns
inflation
all around the
adjusted terms,
world.
the price of oil hasn't moved in 50 years.
But
we
it's still
have remember,
our
if you
tech
look
is
at the
racing
chart
it.
that Steve
Our tech
Sanangelo
is
likes to put
racing
out
it.
about oil, about how conventional oil production has capped over the last 30 years and natural gas liquids and everything else have gone up, that's because we biased the investment profile of oil companies to go after those sources of oil as opposed to investing where there's conventional oil.
Getting harder is going from Jed Clampett blowing a hole in the ground and getting oil to going 2 miles below the Gulf of Mexico.
Okay.
And the fact that we've overcome the getting harder is a testament to man's ingenuity.
And it just means that, that it just
but
means
it is getting harder. It's getting harder.
But is it getting harder in a way that matters? Like, it's a big question.
I don't know, but
I think if the Permian Basin fell in production by 15% since 2020, then that's something to be concerned about.
And the price of oil has been, all the easy stuff was found at $30 a barrel, and actually not even that.
Well, the price of oil has been very volatile the whole
0%, and
it's also been financialized. So price, we've turned off the indicator lights on our dashboard with the modern monetary system, right?
Yeah, I mean,
so the dashboard lights are giving us a mystery.
To argue any of this stuff because we have no ability. I mean, 90% of what we're all talking about
measure anything.
Just arguing about is that we have no idea how to price risk because for 12 years money was free.
Right. Yeah. They kept rates too low, too long, too many times.
Of course. And so much of that was I firmly believe that was an operation. And that was
it had an interesting
not a
effect on the
bug
oil
of the monetary
industry.
system to move the wealth out of the United States back somewhere and put it in other places. I think they put it into China. I think they were going to get it out of China, and then China closed the fucking door. And now we're dealing in that post world. And there's Trump sitting there going, I think we should create a G2 between the US and China. And the Europeans are freaking the fuck out, and rightly so. I keep pointing my fingers over.
Well, we're
Europe.
also overdue.
Still want the fucking world war. They're the ones that still want communism. They're the ones that still want non-democratic systems and all the rest of it.
Wait a minute. Who does? China wants world war?
No, Europe.
Okay. I thought you were saying China.
Every fucking day, it's the same damn thing. We cannot let Ukraine fall. We cannot.
Europe,
fuck off.
They're so fucking
Europe is basically just a big band of tribes who are attacking each other left and right. I mean, there's just tribalism.
Hope they would continue to do that as opposed to like trying to take us out. And Trump is
except for we get into it. We walk into it. That's what pisses me off about
We're
Biden.
walking into their suicide
and we walked
pact.
in because we kept walking into it because one, we didn't price our own friggin' money, and so we didn't price our own risk. Again, LIBOR versus SOFR, and then we had globalists running our fucking monetary policy and our fiscal policy.
That's right.
All part of going right back to the beginning of this conversation, back to Dave's pedophilia ring. And the
Monroe Doctrine.
And all of
bring
it.
Bring back the Monroe Doctrine. I'm willing to go isolationist for a while.
Yeah, me too.
I think it's still in force. We never really stopped it. We're just we've gone a little bit light on it.
We go into their hemisphere. That's what we do. Yeah. The Monroe Doctrine still holds.
Well, we believe in the Monroe Doctrine, but we don't believe that Russia has a sphere of influence of its own.
Yeah,
that's our job.
I know. We're in trouble when the most grounded leader in the world's fucking Russian.
Yeah.
We're in real trouble when we just need. I'm telling you, folks, we really just need to get rid of the goddamn British. We just really do.
I'm with you.
It
I
just
don't.
needs to
I don't. I don't need.
Well, they're doing a good job
we
of
just
getting
need
rid of
we
it
just need to
themselves.
make America not British again. Like
Yeah.
that's what we need.
How long do you think Keir Starmer has?
A week.
I wish. Unfortunately, I think it's going to be longer than that. But the better question is how long does I think Germany is the linchpin, to be honest with you. I mean, let's watch the German snap elections. Let's watch these German snap elections.
No, wait a minute. Germany's never been a problem for Europe before.
Never. They've done great things and were misunderstood.
Getting the vapors over here, Dave.
I can see Nigel Farage coming on strong within the next 12 months.
There was something funny
absolutely.
the way he disappeared. There was something funny about the way he disappeared.
Mhm.
I never understood that.
Maybe
he was front and center and then just poof, gone.
Yeah, maybe he had a good sense of timing.
Yeah, he does have an impeccable sense of timing. He also, I also don't know that Nigel is, I don't know, him walking away after Brexit was done was a political mistake.
Brexit done? Was Brexit?
I mean, after the vote,
accomplished,
after the vote, and not shepherding everything through. You know, I think him.
He dropped the ball on that. He should have stayed.
But he was not in power, and he was not close to being in power. And I think that he had to let the other people fuck it up first.
Maybe. I mean,
that's good way to look at it. So now
it's
you
the same way
and fix it.
And they did.
Sounds like Trump, right? Sounds like Trump.
Kinda.
Yeah. I was going to say, Jim, it's very similar to the argument that Trump had to lose in 2020 in order for us to get to this moment today.
Yeah,
that's a good point. I think that's a strong point.
That's a very good point. So,
do you think he can fix? Do you think Nigel Farage can fix the UK?
No.
Does it even want to be
point,
fixed?
like the whole British system has to be thrown in the ocean.
No, it's got to get.
I mean, going all the way back, like they need an Oliver Cromwell moment. They just do.
Do you think 4 years from now the DNC has rehabbed itself at least back to being normally fucked up as opposed to colossally fucked up?
I don't think the DNC. Yet. No.
Yeah, but it's still green. It's still early. The question is 4 years from now, will they have rebuilt? Will they have rebuilt?
I don't think so.
Okay.
Yeah. What I'll say is this. We could be like looking at a new FDR, except it's the exact opposite.
Republican.
It's going to be a conservative. It's going to be the opposite wave. Whereas, at the top of the sine wave versus the bottom of the sine wave. We were at the bottom of the sine wave in the 1930s. We're coming to the top of the sine wave in the 2020s.
The two parties have done a total pole reversal.
Yes,
look at who's a Republican. Look at who's a Democrat. The Democrats are now the party of corporate America, rich guys, fuck the little people.
Atlanticist, British foreign policy.
Right? The people the Republicans used to be accused of. And now the Republicans are Joe Sixpack, the guys outside in the hall putting the pipes into my building, things like that.
That's right.
And here's what I don't understand. I never switched parties. I'm now with the Republicans still, having started believing, this rich get richer, poor get poorer is bullshit. You are what you make of yourself, that sort of thing. As I grew older, I've started going, wait a minute, the little guy's getting fucked. Yeah. And then you watch January 6th and you go, the little guy just got royally fucked. Mm-hmm. And now the little guy knows it. They're out there in numbers. They ain't taking any more guff. And I think they didn't rig the election because they realized that it could become a bloodbath if they had rigged that election.
Well, they only rigged the Senate and House races.
Yeah, but that was around the edges. No one gave a fuck.
I think Joe Biden made a deal to save himself and also turned off the steal.
Yeah, no, I think there's probably multiple things. I think one of them is Biden said, "Don't give him any help. Fuck Kamala." And what do I?
Did you see that meme where he talks to Obama? Did you see the meme where he talks to Obama on the phone and tells him he fucked him?
Yeah.
Oh, the memes. Oh my God! And I still don't understand why Democrats can't meme, but the memes.
No sense of humor.
Left brain possession is a terrible disease.
Memes are based
purity spiraling is a terrible disease, and
why you expect a funny meme out of a group that calls the other candidate Hitler? I guess is the question, right? Why would they? Why would they possibly have funny memes doing shit like that?
Dave, those memes are funny, just not in the way the Democrats thought they would.
Well, that's true. Yeah, they're totally. That's exactly right. But they can't meme at all. And now now they're talking about the radio this morning when I was talking about they're saying that now they're talking about Tucker totally self-destructing and shit like that, and they're saying the left is trying to figure out how to come back with a Joe Rogan equivalent and stuff like that. And I go, it doesn't work that way. You don't just create a Joe Rogan from the left, because first and foremost, that person would be brain dead from the start.
Because the left is brain
see,
dead.
the thing is that what you're really witnessing is people who really do believe they can create reality, and they get their orders from people who think they can create reality, as opposed to allowing a reality to be an emergent process.
Well, no,
Exactly right.
it's similar to what you see in like Saudi Arabia and United Arab Emirates. Is they'll build whole cities. They'll find a patch of land and go, "We're putting this city here," and they'll dump $100 billion, 20 years.
Or China,
and they'll plan the whole city. And it's like that's to get a Boston or an LA or a New York.
Or
There's a
Paris.
legit anything. There's a legitimate reason to be there, and then it grows over the decades. And no one said, and this is New York. It's just as you step back after 200, 300 years, you kind of go, that's a metropolis and a half right
nice
there.
port. A
Yeah.
great analogy. Someone once said something about how New York City at lunchtime is a miracle, in the sense that you have millions of people all eating lunch. And the whole thing is this amazing dance where all these people that eat all these hundreds of thousands of restaurants in New York, and there's no oversight. It is just humans cooperating, and the left do not understand that.
Well, Murray Rothbard used to talk about that all the time. He used to give there's a great lecture. Very few lectures of Rothbard's actually exist from when he taught at Brooklyn Polytechnic, but you can find this one on the Mises Institute of him. It's the ham sandwich.
Is that about an indictment?
No, it's about no. It's not. It's about
indict a ham sandwich
in New York. It's literally that story grows out of the old Rothbard lecture about how you sit down at lunch, and the free market is so brilliant, and it's amazing. You have these two guys sitting down next to each other who probably don't even like each other, who, if they actually sat down and talked politics, would actually hate each other. But they're sitting down having their lunch, and then you start to think about, and one's having a ham sandwich, the other one's having a blue plate special or whatever. And you think about all the human beings it took to coordinate the creation of that ham sandwich, to deliver it at that price to that guy. And you realize you had to coordinate the actions of millions of people. And that's the real miracle of the free market, is that coordination is what actually brings prosperity and predictability and the ability to leverage savings into capital.
And government is always trying to disrupt that coordination. I went to a symposium during the 08-09 crisis. And some guy from the Fed was talking about, and they used the term equilibrium to talk about a solution to an equation. But I'm hearing equilibrium. And I raised my hand. I said, since when does the Fed in any way support equilibrium? Every move they make is to try to subvert the system seeking equilibrium. They constantly are saying the price of capital is the most important free market in the fucking world, bar none, is where lenders and borrowers haggle over the price of capital, right? And the Fed says, oh, that price is wrong, we better fix it.
Dave, you're a chemist. You know that equilibrium is a lie. That all of it, because by definition, if there's chemistry happening, the system's not at equilibrium. If we're not at absolute equilibrium, means absolute zero. It means nothing's moving, nothing's changing. The great
I disagree with
example in chemistry is the Nernst equation.
What's true is that when you've got what I would call an equilibrium in a round bottom flask, it's not at equilibrium once you go outside the flask. There's order in that flask that requires input of energy.
And the math on all of this stuff is based on boundary conditions and based on presuppositions and that set certain things equal to assumptions that set things to equilibrium. Like so much of our chemistry, like the math is designed around, well, at equilibrium, these are the things that are going to happen. Well, but we're never there. We're studying the chemistry is the study of the change of matter, right? So
the reason we're not at equilibrium is because it's not a closed system,
right?
And the other field that, by the way, made this. So economists used to study the economy And then they got this fucking pinheaded idea of controlling it.
Mm-hmm.
The other group that does this are ecologists who will look at a wetland and say, oh, we've got cattails in there. We got to get them out of there. Let's remediate the wetland. Up at north of Kego Lake, at the north end, is a national preserve. Montezuma's Wildlife Preserve. And they fucking decided it needed remediation. And they fucked that thing up so badly. And it's just like, look, study it, do what you want. Keep your dirty paws off it.
Yeah, it's a huge thing. I've driven past it 50 times in my life.
Right.
It's a huge, vast
They
swamp.
fucked it up.
How'd they fuck it up? They put drainage canals in it or something?
They bulldozed it and shit. Yeah. Some invasive species trouble them or something, right? Which, by the way, is the non-closed system, right? By the way, here's a non-closed system. We had an invasive species in Keuga Lake about some number of years ago called the goby. And it's this very prehistoric looking fish, little tiny thing about this big. And everyone was upset by it. And then all of a sudden anglers are going, wait a minute, I'm catching some pretty big fucking fish. The New York State smallmouth bass record was broken in 2022 in Cayuga Lake. And then the largemouth record was shattered this year in Cayuga Lake, right off my fucking dock. And here's the question. Why don't I fish? Because I must have caught 1,000 pounds of bass. But somehow I live on the lake. I hang off a 100-foot cliff looking right over the lake, and I'm not fishing. What is your problem? There was a 12-pound bass caught off your dock, essentially. It's somewhere within a quarter mile. When I say off my dock, it's metaphor.
Do you have a dock below that cliff?
Yes.
How do you get down to it?
110 steps. The question is how do you get back up?
God damn.
Getting down is easy.
Getting back up at our age, getting down's a problem, right? The knees don't like their trip.
Yeah.
But I want to bring up what Tom brought up earlier.
I'm going to do an unbelievably hard disappearance because I got an appointment coming. So I'm going to talk and then say bye.
And I got to go too.
We'll wrap it up. I was going to say, but to what all you guys were saying earlier was I've had Dr. Stephen Hatfield on here a zillion times. He's brilliant. One thing he always brings up is, basically no one knows how the food gets to the shelves, but it happens perfectly. And that's what Tom was saying with the sandwiches. And I tend to think that's probably what it applies to everything, including global economics, or if we're talking about entropy and enthalpy, that society is wildly negatively entropic. You could then argue but the universe is positively entropic in the same way a nuclear submarine has an infinite heat sink around it at all times. But the idea that no one knows what it is, or as Howard Bloom calls it, the global brain, where no one part of the brick charcoal knows or understands how it creates the flame. And if it could understand it, then it would be creating something past that. So the thing you guys create will always be above what your understanding is. And the minute you can understand it, there's something greater. I think it's probably something like that. No one knows. We can try and we can fine tune it, but no one, how the fuck did I get this chaps? I got way too high last Christmas, and we'll wrap it up.
Chapstick addiction is a problem.
But I'll say it's I got way too high last Christmas. I ate some pot cookies, and I was just thinking though, man, me going between my parents' place or my brother visiting from across the country, it's kind of like crowd surfing, and that no one really understands it, but the guy in the Uber who didn't make the car, who didn't create the fuel, picks you up and he takes you to an airport, and you open a door that's made of glass and steel that you don't know anything about. You go through security, you get on a plane from a pilot that doesn't know you. You don't know the pilot or where the plane was from or the history of aviation. But it's still just like crowd surfing. You kind of just end up at your family's door on Christmas. And then it's not really.
And as a comedian said, he gets on a plane and they said, "We're pleased to announce
Louis
that we
CK.
have Wi-Fi." Yeah. And the guy next to him sitting there, the Y2K fails, and the guy's pissed off. He's going, "Oh, that sucks." He says, 10 minutes ago, the pilot told you they had a revolutionary technology for the plane,
internet.
And now that you don't have it, you think it sucks.
Yeah, right? you're in a chair in the miracle. But I tend to wrap it all up. I think that's what it is, and that's not satisfying. It's not whatever, but I think that's what it is.
But
no one knows, and it's going to correct. And it will.
We're due for a bitch slapping,
but it will correct in a way more efficiently and better than any person could ever plan. Doesn't mean it won't be vicious and savage and blood in the streets, but
Well,
that's what I
read
think.
Annie Jacobson's book, Nuclear War.
I've
It'll
read that.
scare the fuck out of you. It'll scare the fuck out of you.
Yeah.
I have two real quick things. I just checked my Twitter feed as I was doing it on the way out the door. One, RINs, the renewable identification, the ethanol blending stuff, was created by regulation, so it has to be repealed. The EPA just manages it.
Chevron
Two,
deference.
no, well, maybe. I don't know.
Go ahead.
It's okay. And then two, Labor MPs are plotting to cull Keir Starmer. Merry Christmas.
Let's go. Merry fucking Christmas.
So there you go. So
Yeehaw.
two questions that were out there during this podcast. Just to end on that note.
Beautiful.
You want to know how long it's going to be for Keir Starmer?
Give it a week.
Could be quick.
Give it a week. Gentlemen, thank you for helping me to
Europe
round out the end
spring.
last show
Europe
this year.
spring.
European spring. Thank you guys for helping me, everybody watching.
Merry Christmas.
Merry Christmas.
New Year's.
Jim,
Merry
happy
Christmas.
Hanukkah. All
Happy
of that.
New Year's. Guys,
I'm a Christmas guy.
He's a Christmas
Good.
man. He's one of us.
All of it.
Guys,
Enjoy them all.
thank you so much, everybody watching.
I'm a
Thank
Mohammed
you so much.
guy. So.
He's a Mohammed guy. He's got a date with a plane. All right, guys. Thank you so much. Merry Christmas and happy 9/11, Dave. Take